Okay.
We'll do it 5, 4.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode number 4 of D&H Live. I'm with you, Matt Allison, Microsoft Technical Advisor, and I am personally really thrilled to bring this topic to you this week. We have been making some serious investments into our cloud business, and one of those investments is bringing with us a playbook to help you make more money and be more successful in the cloud, and that is my boss, Vice President of Cloud Business, of our Cloud Business Unit, Mr. Jason Bystrak.
Yeah, well, thanks, Matt. Glad to be here today, and appreciate everybody taking the time to watch the podcast here.
Yeah, we had a couple of technical difficulties to start this whole thing off, so you may be viewing this as slightly delayed, but the information was the important part. So we wanted to make sure that the quality of the video was here so that you could reference this later. So I don't know. With that, let's just get started. I want to direct. Well, what we're essentially going to do is talk about the 8 steps in building a successful cloud practice. Jason has a lot of experience in this. He's bringing this to D&H as far as how we work with you, but these methods can still work just as well, if not better, for a reseller. So, Jason, I'll give you the floor then.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Matt. I mean, what this is all about, the 8 steps to building your cloud practice, is we work with a lot of different partner types, and we know what the formula of success is to be able to help them get a cloud practice up and running from end to end. So what we wanted to share is really a collection of what those best practices are and kind of talk through it a little bit so that we can help all of you out, and that's really what it's all about. Awesome. So the first step in building a cloud practice, it sounds logical, but sometimes people jump further ahead, right? A lot of times people start with like just the sales process because the sales team is all excited to start selling cloud, and you miss the other 7 steps before that. So there's a hint that the last step is around your sales team. But the very first step in the process is building out the cloud solutions that you intend to take to market. And we really should approach this agnostically. And some of the advice we'd give is that you first of all want to think about pre-building a cloud solution because you have to sell a consistent solution in order to gain efficiency and scale. If you're constantly customizing it, interchanging different vendors for every specific customer deal, you're going to have an operational nightmare when it comes to providing service delivery around it or support or things like that. So standardization is what drives efficiency and a great customer experience for cloud.
Yeah, and it sounds like by standardizing, by pre-building these solutions, in essence, it's something that can be a lot more familiar to existing VARs who are used to buying and selling individual products at a markup. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, when you think about an on-premise world or the way maybe we've worked in the channel the last couple decades, you're working on a project. So from one project to the next, you can interchange the vendors, interchange the solution. You never have to really touch it again. But right. With a cloud business, there's an ongoing service experience. So your solution has to be standardized and everyone has to be very tight on the way that they're going to support that going forward.
Great.
Some of the other things we think about when you're building your solution is conduct your market research and analyze your customer demand. What types of solutions are they asking for? Because I would tell you that almost any solution that you want to take to market, we can give you a cloud version of it. It's a matter of what is it that you are seeing demand for out with your customer base. Another tactic that we look at is a lot of our partners have very deep skills with delivering certain types of solutions. So you can consider whether you have an on-premise solution that you want to convert into that cloud delivery model. A great example might be email. A lot of people were selling a server and some Exchange software and delivering an email solution, and now there's options like Office 365. If you were good at doing the old one, you're probably going to be good at doing the new one. So you can convert that business into that. And then there's also an opportunity to add additional organic revenue streams of maybe new types of solutions. Like maybe you were not doing a voice solution in the past, and cloud's a great way to get started into that type of thing.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I mean, that's something that actually I talk to customers pretty frequently about, which is don't make this such a it is overwhelming. It's an all-encompassing vehicle for basically everything that we do, but it doesn't need to be that to you. As Jason mentioned, if you're used to installing Exchange boxes, get familiar with Office 365 because it's just an alternative in something that you're already peddling. It's something that you're already familiar with.
It does the same thing, right? One of the other tips I would say is that you want to focus in on an anchor solution, like an anchor vendor to that, and then wrap other things around it to offer a differentiated, and complete solution
Right.
that's going to solve your customers' business problems. As you're building these solutions, now's the time where you want to integrate and include into these solutions your professional and your managed services. These are what's going to drive additional profitability for you, add additional value for your end client, and then you'll have the recipe of how you're going to support that, going forward. So the services wraparound is really important. I think you want to think about the size and the packaging of a typical customer. So, understand, like, if is your average customer 25, users, 25 seats, then make sure you're building solutions that fit that, and not some kind of an enterprise class thing or something that's too small that doesn't meet your market demand to that. So those are some real keys. And I think, the last one I'd say is focus on business outcomes, and, maybe think about vertical and horizontal markets that you're going to go after with those, so that you can repeat the process over and over again and, help drive the sales and marketing process. One thing with cloud is that a lot of the sales decisions are now made by line of business leaders and not necessarily the technical context that a lot of us are used to dealing with in the past.
That's a very good point too.
Yeah. And you notice I didn't mention a vendor. I didn't say to pick a vendor yet, right? That's step 2, and that's a whole separate step. So if you do the solution building right, now you can choose which vendors you plug into that to actually create and design that solution. And you should also build your cloud solution so that the vendors could be interchangeable. If you pick like an endpoint security vendor to wrap around an email solution, to wrap around a voice solution, to put that all together, you should be able to plug and play different vendors if down the road you find a better partnership opportunity or somebody else launches new features that you want to be able to use. So make sure that they're interchangeable and kind of open technology.
No, that's a great point. One of the biggest selling points of cloud business in general is its flexibility.
Yep.
So you want to make sure you're maintaining that by choosing the right vendors. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the considerations when you're picking your vendor partners, think about, this might sound obvious, but make sure you stick to the steps, is that think about the relationship you have with them and what their overall channel strategy is. What are they going to do to add value there? Understand their partner programs, understand the resources that they're going to bring to the table to help you, execute your business when you get it running. Learn a little bit about the competitive landscape and the positioning that they have against their competitors, so that, because you're going to run up against the same issues as you're selling. So, get that stuff done out in front as you're picking the vendor partners. I think it's important to do your due diligence. Technically, certainly, make sure you kick the tires, you're comfortable with how the solution works,
Right.
and even financially. Make sure that cloud vendor that you're picking, is sustainable, that they have access to capital to be able to grow with you.
Sure.
You don't want the lights going out in the data center 6 months down the road after you plug in a cloud solution for a customer.
Yes, that's a very good, typically overlooked point. Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
You're going to be operating this, right? There's going to be a lot of touch costs. When we think about cloud versus project business, again, that ongoing service requirement, monthly invoicing and things. So one thing that we advise customers to look at are some of the integrations that these cloud vendors have to each other and into different systems and tools that you use to manage your business with that. Certainly, you got to get into the legal weeds a little bit, understand the contract terms and SLAs that you're signing up for, make sure you're comfortable with it. You should always take time to maybe have legal counsel just review that for you and make sure that they're comfortable with all of that. I think you want to know the service delivery requirements. You don't want surprises. Some of the vendors are more likely to come in and actually provide direct support to your client. Other ones are saying it's all on you as the partner or the MSP. You've got to do that service delivery requirement. So understand what you're signing up for. And really around the last part is you want to think about the cost basis and the discounts and those types of things that you're going to have as you start to move into the pricing decisions like that. One thing I'll tell you is if you partner with a distributor, as you're choosing your vendor partners, a lot of that stuff's been done. I mean, here at D&H, we go through a pretty rigid vetting process. We make sure the solutions talk to each other with different vendors. What we're doing, they're very purpose-built solutions that we have to make sure that they do all these types of things. But some partners choose to do it on their own or work a combination of on their own and with a distributor like that.
Yeah, I mean, that was the point I was thinking here. This is obviously a lot of information. It's intentionally a lot of information because this is not to be taken lightly. That said, we here at D&H are doing everything that we can to simplify this model and to provide you with a lot of this ourselves, right? I mean, in other words, we're encouraging you, if you are considering any sort of cloud practice, to reach out to us, and we can discuss these individually.
Absolutely, yeah. Now so basically, we've taken 2 steps so far. We've built a solution. We understand what it does and why we built it. We've pick the vendor partners that we're going to plug in to round out that solution and actually deliver the services. The third step is now we got to price it. We got to decide on a market price and what we're going to sell it at. And a couple things I would consider as you're building out your pricing strategy is, first of all, you need to understand your cost basis. What is the cost that you're going to have for that? Second, I would tell you is that do not just add a margin to it because, I don't know, some random percent like 20% feels good. You should be using value-based pricing methodology for that service. So make sure you understand what the market will bear and what the market rate is for that, and then pick your price based on that. And then the key from there is to really look and see if you can adjust those costs to bring down and make the most profit that you can. And adjusting those costs when it comes to the price of the products you pay, the cost of service delivery, cost of operation. So you fine-tune it on the back end, but you sell it at the market rate.
Yeah.
I would tell you when it comes to pricing, you really shouldn't have very much negotiation with the cloud pieces. So your sales team might be used to wheeling and dealing and offering discounts and constantly things like that. I would tell you that if you price it properly, you shouldn't have to do as much negotiation. So this is a very important step in the process with it. I would tell you that factoring expenses related to those service delivery costs, you need to understand and bake that in. If there's people that have to provide support or implementation, and that's part of your service, factor that in out of the gate before you price it. You want to leverage volume discounts. So, some of the cloud vendors will say when you get to a certain level, a certain number of seats or a certain amount of consumption, there's discounts that are available. Other cloud vendors have things like reserved instances, for example, where you can pre-commit a certain amount of cloud consumption and earn a discount. So, think about what the future looks like 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, and whether you're going to be able to even make additional profit, and that might impact the price that you set today.
Absolutely.
And I think the last two things I would tell you is, think about offering promotions and trials as part of your pricing strategy and passing through maybe some of those volume discount tiers that you might sit right onto your end clients to help drive the business.
Now, would you consider any of these discounts, any of these pricing questions, along with developing step one, with developing your actual cloud product? In other words, you could have a reserved instanced version of a workload that you've established at price A, and then you have a volume discounted version. Am I right, or
my opinion?
Am I jumping ahead?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to do this business, man. In my opinion, I would not do that.
Okay.
Right? You want to build the solution, check the vendors, and then have the pricing as a separate phase with that. But you can have multiple pricing options for the same solution, right? So if that's what you're saying, then
I see.
You want to take it to market differently based on the way the customer may want to commit to it or consume it. That's perfectly fine, and that's part of your pricing strategy.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
So what have we done so far? We built a solution, plugged in the vendors. Now it's priced, right? Now we bring in the sales team. No, not yet. The next thing we need to do at step 4 is around, you need to establish key performance indicators and treat these as lead indicators to how you're going to run your business and achieve your goals. So these really need to be organic, type of metrics that you're going to use to measure the success of the business. What I find is that a lot of people just set an arbitrary revenue goal, like I want to do $1 million in cloud this year, but they don't really know the path to get there. These KPIs give you the path. So, some of the ones that we use internally with our business plan, and we'd be happy to share the models that we use. They're pretty well developed, and you can use it. They're very applicable to your business. Is you want to look at the number of leads per month, right? A lead is a good reason to call a customer. So it could be driven from a marketing activity. It could be like a list of stuff that people bought in the past that make them a logical candidate to consume this new cloud service that you're selling. But for every lead, it needs to be acted on by sales. And then you want to have assumptions made around a lead conversion rate. Typically, we see that's about 15%. So you think about it, 15 out of 100 calls that you make will result in a pipeline opportunity. Then you want to have a win rate. So once something's in the pipeline, and I've tracked this for over 10 years in this business, it is within a few percentage points, always 33%. So, if you take a look at everything in your pipeline, you really want to have a 3x pipeline in order to, drive the revenue number that you're looking for with that. And what that's going to do, if you kind of stack those metrics into a spreadsheet, it's going to give you the number of wins that you're going to have on a monthly basis. You apply your average deal size. So if that solution that you priced out is $500 a month, well, you multiply that out, get that. And what that's going to do then is give you really a P&L to show how your top line revenue and your bookings are all going to line up. And then you can lay your expenses underneath that and build your P&L.
Love it.
But I think it's really key to take the time to plan this thing and have these targets on a monthly basis. And this becomes your scorecard as you start to work with your go-to-market teams in sales and marketing to go drive this business. So I can tell you it takes some discipline, it takes some planning, and I will also offer to personally get involved and help any of our partners that want to do that.
Great.
We're investing in a business development team just to help people build these plans out like this.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, step 5.
Step 5. So now we actually know, kind of have a target to what we're going to sell, and now it comes down to financial planning and analysis. So you've got basically your top line revenue that you have with that. And I already kind of mentioned it, but you need to layer onto that, kind of the P&L metrics, which is going to be what's it going to cost me to do all this stuff. Mm-hmm. So, you got to factor in all the people and the labor that you're going to have involved with this cloud practice. You've got to factor in any marketing expenses that are going to tie to that one, sales expenses. You need to look to see, is this going to meet your ROI expectations, this whole plan that you started to put together. One mistake I see people make is, you did this great job building this KPI plan, and then suddenly you're doing the analysis, you start changing some of the numbers. You can't do that. You have to go back to the bottoms-up key performance indicators and change those if you want to see a different output from that.
Sure, that makes sense.
This cloud business is going to have some kind of impact on your cash flow as a company. So you need to understand, like if you're, again, we go back to that email solution. If you were selling a server and some software and you were invoicing it in 30 days and getting paid in 30 days, that's very different than a subscription model that might take, a year or even 2 years to catch up and get the same revenue. So understand what that cash flow impact on your business is and make sure you're comfortable with it, right? That you have, access to capital to be able to keep sustaining the business. You need to think about the investments. When it comes to cloud, you are going to have to invest in marketing. You're going to have to compensate your sales team different, and there's some upfront costs that go along with that. So this all needs to go into this analysis that you're doing with your executive team. And then the last step ties into making sure that everybody's aligned. If you've got a CEO, a CFO, a COO, a vice president of services, all these people need to review all this and be at the table and approve it. And by the way, sometimes it's one person wearing all those different hats I just mentioned. That's okay too. But you need to make sure that anybody that's a decision maker and can impact this business is on board and comfortable with the plan.
Yeah, yeah. Well done, well said. Step 6.
So now you've got a financial plan, it's been reviewed and approved. You understand what this business is going to mean to you, and that's great. If you take even just those 6 steps, I think you're above average when it comes to your ability to go execute a cloud business.
Definitely.
But step 6 now is starting to build out your operational process. How are you going to run this business? And it is a very different business with cloud than what we've seen in a traditional kind of project business or on-premise type of technology. So some of the things you need to think about in the operational process is, first of all, your contracting process. How are you going to get your customers into agreements with cloud? What we recommend is that, and we've seen people do successfully, is you have a master services agreement that has all your terms and conditions for any services that you're delivering to them in cloud as a service. And then every time that they decide to consume a new solution from you, they just sign an addendum to that specific to give the SLAs that go with that cloud solution. And that way you're always covered and you've got all your I's dotted and your T's crossed. You need to make sure you're choosing a scalable automation platform. Once you start getting into this recurring revenue business, if you're constantly going, like let's say your cloud solution has 5 vendors in it, and you're going to 5 different portals to purchase and provision those services, and then you're getting sprayed with invoices at different times from all these vendors. Now you multiply that times 50 or 100 end customers, you're going to have a nightmare of paperwork and operational stuff. So, you need to find a way to aggregate and consolidate all of that activity. And, that's one of the investments that D&H has made, and is that, we've got a platform that this consolidates everything into that, right? You need to think about your invoicing systems. We tend to recommend, and most successful MSPs that are selling cloud, I see, are using a professional services automation platform. This is going to be their internal hub to handle all the invoicing. It's going to handle all of the, the service delivery tickets, all the alerts that might happen from these cloud vendors if something's not working properly.
What's an example of one of those?
Well, there's a lot of different PSA tools out in the market, but companies that are probably the most prominent would be ConnectWise, Datto's Autotask, Kaseya is another one. These are all viable, PSA products.
Sure.
But and what we've done at D&H is taken the time with our cloud platform is to integrate into those PSA tools to make the invoicing process seamless. That's an enhancement that we're launching here before the end of this quarter that we'll have available for our partners.
Excellent.
You need to think about reporting and financial tracking. So you built this great plan that's got a bottoms-up model with key performance indicators, how are you tracking it? So you need to think about, do I need to use a CRM system for my sales team, my marketing team, or am I just using a spreadsheet? Maybe that's okay, but you have to have some way to be able to track all the work that you're going to be doing to drive your business out there.
Sure.
Part of operations is the customer experience, so think about how am I going to onboard customers to make sure they have a good experience and know how to use the services, they know where to go if there's any troubles that might happen with the service, as they always do down the road, since it's ongoing. How am I going to train them? Things like that. What happens post-sale if they have a problem? Who do they call? How does that map out? How am I going to support it? What's my SLA around that? That should all be well thought out and decided. And you're going to be working with a lot of different vendors, presumably in cloud. What's your vendor management process look like? How are you going to work to make sure that everything's working properly and escalate any issues there? And that ties right into the last piece of, I think, operations, which is quality assurance. Right. If you do have challenges, how do you test to make sure that things are working properly, that SLAs are being met, that your customers are satisfied? So, all of these things need to be built around an operational process. And again, we're talking a lot here in a short time, but we've got some checklists and things that can help you through that process, and some resources to help train you on that.
That's exactly what I was going to add. Dealing with these operations is something that myself and my team deal with on a regular basis. So don't feel overwhelmed by all these things that you need to handle it yourself. We have several resources that can help you. So.
Yeah, so really, think about the first 6 steps that we laid out here. We built a solution. We plugged in the vendors with that, so we know what we're selling. We've got it priced out properly. We've built a bottoms-up key performance indicator model, so we've got a dashboard that we can look at. We did the financial analysis. We're happy and satisfied, so we're still moving forward. We built an operational process, so we can actually do this stuff now. It's not just a pipe dream. So now we're ready to start getting the go-to-market team involved, but not yet sales. And I think the best practices I've seen is that marketing always comes before sales.
That makes sense.
You think about, when I think about marketing is one-to-many, sales is one-to-one. So you want to set your sales team up to have success, that the quality of their customer conversations results very often in an opportunity and hopefully even a win down the road.
Right.
If marketing is doing their job properly, that's going to really warm up those opportunities and everything. And you really need to get out there and tell your story, because a lot of your current customers, you'd be surprised, they're already doing some cloud, but just not with you. So they're working with another partner potentially, or direct with a vendor. If you're not out there, marketing and broadcasting that you're in the cloud business, they might not know about that to even call you. They might not think of it. So some of the things I would look at is understanding the leads that you put into that KPI plan. That's going to give you a target of how many at-bats your sales teams need each month, right? Develop a master catalog of marketing activities, to maybe align with that. So if you're going to do lunch and learns or webinars or social media campaigns, those are all important. So understand what you're going to do. Eliminate the number of leads that it costs for the activity. Estimate that. So you want to go in and understand what it's going to cost to do that marketing, and that should align with the financial plan that you put in place there. There's going to be some budget that goes with it. You want to target new buyers, which are the line of business decision makers. In many cases, it's not the IT department buying cloud. I remember one of the companies I worked for, our vice president went and swiped his credit card and bought a Salesforce.com license to run the business. Our IT department didn't know for 4 years that we weren't running on the company's systems, and that is a reality when it comes to cloud.
Yeah.
So you need to find out and educate those people. So it might be a different marketing strategy that goes with it. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we have found that works really well with some of our best partners is that they position themselves as thought leaders, and they work to educate their customers on different value that cloud's going to bring, different ways it's going to solve business problems, right? So social media, white papers, blogs, things like that are easy to consume are good ways to get that out there. And lastly, I would say is make sure you're tracking your leads. That you understand, again, that all the work that you're doing, how you're tracking that, and that you're holding sales accountable for following up on that, right? So those are some of the key things I would say that you need to think about from a marketing strategy.
And I'm not trying to set us up for a big old zero, but what could you tell us that D&H might be doing to help with some of this marketing strategy?
Well, it's definitely not a big old zero. So what we do is when we work with all the different vendors that we bring to market, certainly we put together all the collateral, we get a lot of the use cases and white papers. Many of those can be co-branded so that you can literally take the work and contents that's there and push it back out to your clients. So things like that we're doing. We've got a great marketing team here that can really help you to refine your strategy and actually give you some of the tools to be successful.
Excellent. Okay, so we are finally At sales.
It's my favorite part. I've always been a sales guy, but you know, when it comes to enabling the sales team, you know, there's really a checklist, and this was important to be sequential like that because, you know, again, I'll just reiterate it. We've seen a lot of partners that suddenly let the sales team dictate which cloud solutions they're going to sell, and next thing you know, they've closed some deals because they're salespeople and they're good at it. But you've got a whole mishmash of different services that you're not quite sure how to operate. You're not sure whether you're making money off of it or not.
Right.
You know, you got all these different vendor relationships. Finances is a mess because you're getting sprayed with invoices left and right at different times. So, you know, that's why you have to go through the first 7 steps. But now that you're at the sales team, you know, some of the things to think about. You know, one of the first big ones is adjusting their compensation. You know, again, I'll go back to the whole idea of deferred revenue. When you sell the project for a server and some software to do email versus, say, you know, a subscription-based email, it takes a lot longer, right? But the salesperson's not going to say, don't worry, I'll wait on my commission. I'll sell it today, and I'll just live on $10,000 this year. Next year, I'll make it up.
Right.
They have a mortgage to pay and a lifestyle to live with. So you have to build a compensation plan that makes the cloud solution just as attractive, if not more attractive, than your old on-premise one that you sold.
Yeah.
So, you know, make sure that you've got a plan that does that. That's probably a whole separate discussion, but we've got some great best practices and detail about comp plans. You need to establish goals that tie to those KPIs. So sales needs to know that marketing is going to be feeding these leads and, you know, and why they're doing that. You know, one of the things that we do here at D&H is what we call campaign style selling, where, you know, we work that marketing warms things up, and then right after the activity, sales gets, you know, basically a list of those partners, understand the reasons they maybe attended or took an action. We give like some talking points about the solution that we're going to talk to them about. We give them a piece of collateral to go out and have those customer conversations. This is something that you could definitely deploy and do downstream as well. You know, you need to provide training for the overall value of cloud. There's a lot of the salespeople that maybe just need a better understanding of why the end user is even interested in cloud, what the overall value prop, right? The idea of utility, you know, of being able to access cloud from any mobile device that they have, you know, the agility and the speed at which they can deploy business ideas with cloud.
We have to do that here
regularly.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to inspire people to move to cloud solutions, and your salespeople are the ones in the front lines doing that.
Yep.
You've got to help them understand how to talk to non-IT people, how to go talk to the line of business leaders. They don't care about speeds and feeds. They care about business outcomes. So is your sales team prepared for that? So we've seen partners invest in different training around that. We do some of that here at D&H. Some of the content we bring is around line of business discussions and training, things like that. You think about operating the sales business, you've got to have a great pipeline management process, so set expectations, make sure you're tracking these opportunities, make sure you're tracking your win rates and things like that. Help them with the pre-sale support process, right? A guy like you, our team turns to you almost on a daily basis, you know, asking technical questions that a customer fired up to them. Your salespeople are going to get the same questions from their end clients, so make sure you've got a go-to. We're happy to be that go-to, but map that out. Make sure they understand that they can call, you know, talk to Matt if they want to. With cloud too, the upsell, cross-sell process is critical. So you might have sold, you know, your solution that's out there, but there's oftentimes opportunity to upsell that further and add additional features that have additional, you know, pricing into it like that. That's going to be really key to being able to grow your business with existing clients that are out there. And once you've sold one cloud solution, it's often the customer's warmed up and it's easier to start selling a second, a third, or fourth cloud solution. So that ongoing sales touch and process is important with that. You need to have a customer business review process. So what that means is that in a services model, on a monthly, definitely quarterly at minimum, but hopefully even monthly, your sales team is having a customer review where they're talking about showing the value you're bringing. So, you know, here's all the incidents that we helped you manage. Here's all the support tickets that we did. You know, I want to give you an update on some of the products you're using or some new features that you might want to take advantage of. It's going to keep the customer on the service.
Absolutely.
And the very last thing I'd say is that despite all that great effort, there is going to be some attrition, you know, when it comes to cloud. And you know, I think the industry average is around 10%. So about 10% of your business every year is going to leave your cloud service for one reason or another. And sometimes there's legit reasons, you know, customers out of business, things like that. But other times they might have moved for a reason that you just need to understand. So you need to have a customer win-back process. Sometimes they think the grass is greener. They go to a different cloud provider, and next thing you know, they're not happy over there. But if you're following up regularly and you're talking about win-backs, you'd be surprised how many of those come back to you. So, you know, that should be the last step in your sales process.
That's awesome. Yeah. I am personally very impressed by this. It fills in a lot of the gaps that I personally had, and this is doing this for a number of years, discussing with customers what they have done. This is, generally speaking, what we've been talking about here at the Solutions Lab, but like I said, it fills in a lot of the gaps. One of the things that you mentioned about upselling, which I think is definitely common or applicable, is since you are moving from a capital expense, typically a large expense, to something that they can move into their operating budget, you can often talk about sort of additional ancillary capital expenses, perhaps projects that they wouldn't normally have considered because of budget reasons. This helps them throw that in there. So when you're discussing, this monthly recurring revenue model with your sales, remember that there is still room for expanded business, a lot of times in categories and places that weren't even a consideration before. So I just wanted to mention that too.
I agree. I mean, one of the real benefits of cloud is that it is, oftentimes consumption-based. You pay for what you use. Moving to that operating expense instead of a capital expense does free up budget sometimes in the current years. So you can reinvest that into other business ideas and things like that. But I'd also say the cloud is not always cheaper. You have to look at some of the other value add, like again, the speed of deployment. You think about on-premise stuff, and you've got to go and design a solution, ship it, go set it up, test it, migrate things, all kinds of stuff like that. With cloud, that's all been done.
Yeah.
So in a matter of sometimes minutes, but at worst, your days, you can have a cloud solution up and running. So the speed of getting to market and getting business ideas for end clients, into the market is much greater with cloud. So that agility is something I would focus on. The consumption base. Like think about right now. I think a lot of people are doing their tax returns, and if you're not, you should be doing your tax returns. But these accounting firms are really busy right now, right? And they're using additional compute power. They have temporary people that are, using cloud licenses and things. If they're doing this in a cloud model, they can flex up and increase their consumption, and then when the busy season is over, they can flex down and save some money on that. So again, the utility basis around cloud. These are all reasons that end users are moving to this stuff, and you need to understand what's driving their behavior.
Absolutely.
But unlike other technology, I think cloud actually poses very unique challenges on the channel that weren't in place before. So this is why it's so important to have a very disciplined planning process in your go-to-market strategy.
Great. Well put. Well, unless you have anything else to add, I'm going to wrap it up there. I think there was a lot of information, but I think it was well spoken and well presented, and hopefully everyone benefited from this video quite a bit. I do want to encourage you, though, to leave any questions that you might have. Yes, this is being recorded live, but we're not going to be able to respond to you in video. We absolutely will respond to you, though, if you post a question right now as this video is airing. On top of that, we definitely encourage you to reach out to the cloud team. Everything that was discussed here, we can go into much more detail. We can train your staff on, and we can take you to the next level with us. So with that, unless Jason, you have anything else to say?
No, really encourage you to reach out. We'd love to share more specific content, some of these modeling tools, and kind of walk down this checklist with you, one-on-one, and customize the discussion for your business, because we're trying to be general here, but everybody's business is a little different. So we can help you through some of those nuances. With all the so many partners that we've helped in the past, I think we've probably seen some similar stories. So we'd love to be the ones that help you.
Excellent. Well, with that, thank you so much for joining us, and we will both see you next time.